Welcome to Natural Habitat Adventures Daily Dose of Nature. I'm your host, Brooke Mitchell, and today's webinar is Jewels in Flight Hummingbirds of Mexico, presented by NatHab Expedition Leader Melissa Silva. Thank you so much for being here today, Melissa. Over to you.
Thank you, Rook. Also happy to be here again and sharing this marvelous group of birds. And well, I hope you all enjoy what I put up together for today's webinar. And well, as you can see, the name of our webinar is Hummingbirds in Mexico. Because well, I'm based in Mexico. I'm from Jalisco state. I work here for the monarch butterfly trips. You can see me there with a little tiny monarch trying to do a macro photo with my phone. And the reason I decided to have this topic for the webinar is because we are very likely to see at least two different species of hummingbirds like super close to us when we are in the monarch butterfly trips. I actually have I'm a little bit nerdy, so I have this America book with me, um, and I have marked the ones that I have seen with my eyes in the monarch sanctuaries. So at least these three ones: the green violet ear, the green violet ear, this one broad-bill hummingbird, and the white-eared hummingbird. So those are the ones that I have seen. I'm not lying, like 3 feet away from my face. So it's something always very beautiful. They are very noisy when we are in the sanctuaries, usually late on the afternoon when we are coming back from being with the butterflies. You can hear a lot of noises in the sanctuary, and they are very loud. So it's always amazing, and it has always amazed me how beautiful they are, how complex they are, and how tiny most of them are. So, well, this is just a sample. I named the webinar Jewels in Flight because, I mean, very obvious. They all look like tiny gems, like little jewels flying, brighting through the sky. So, what I want to share with you today is all the science behind, all the nerd stuff behind the hummingbirds. And, well, just any question you have, as Brooke already mentioned, let us know. So let's dive in the information. The hummingbirds belong to a bird order named Apodiforms, and that means birds without legs. So birds that don't have legs. They name them after the characteristic of their very tiny feet. There are three families in this order. You have the examples here, and all of the birds within this order have tiny feet that don't work for walking like other birds, but just perching, as you can see on these three images. So the hummingbirds belong to the family Trochilidae. You can see here. That means tiny bird. That's the meaning of this family. And well, for obvious reasons, they are super tiny, most of them. There are more or less 360 species all over the Americas. They are exclusive to the American continent, from southern Alaska to southern Chile in the Patagonia area, in the Tierra del Fuego. The northernmost species is the Rufous hummingbird, as is marked here, and the southernmost species would be the greenback firecrown that is found in Tierra del Fuego area. This map here, I really like it because the darker the green that you can see here, it tells us the richness of species, the number of species in the country, on the Americas. So the country with the highest number of hummingbird species is Colombia, with more or less 170, very close by is the Ecuador, and then Peru, Brazil, and Mexico is only on the fifth place. I was thinking, I was very positive, and I thought like, well, Mexico might be in the third place, maybe not the first one, but the third. And I was surprised that we were in fifth place in number of species. Uh, Later on, I realized that we do have a lot of ecosystems, our topography. We have a lot of mountains, we have desertic areas on the north, we have very humid areas on the south part of Mexico, but we have very like a lot of changes during the year in terms of weather. We have a very pronounced dry season during winter, and then we have, like in this precise moment, we have a very dry summer and spring. So those alterations diminish the number of species in general. So here, if we notice closer to the equator, where we have more stable temperatures, more stable weather patterns through the year, we have a higher richness of species. So that's what the map here tells us. And well, as I mentioned, in general, the hummingbirds are very tiny. The average length is about 4 inches, which is more or less, oh, I missed it, aquí está, 4 inches right here, 10 centimeters from here to here. That's the average length from the tip of the beak to the tip of the tail. So basically, I have my helper here, little Rufino, the hummingbird. And the way they length the hummingbirds is from the tip of the beak going back to the back of the head, and then going down to the tip of the tail. So when we say the average length of a hummingbird is 4 inches, we refer to the whole body length. But in the southern part of the Americas, in the Andean area, in the Andes mountains, there is this huge hummingbird that you won't believe. It's around 9 inches of length. I try to have something that represents the 9 inches, and here we have the Patagonia gigas, the giant hummingbird from the Andes. So pretty much this would be more or less the real size of the giant hummingbird. And then on the other hand, we have very tiny bird and a hummingbird in Cuba. It's the bee hummingbird. I'm pretty sure you've heard of it, the Melisuga LN, and it's as big as my thumb, pretty much, like 2 inches. This is, well, just a little hummingbird I had already printed, not the actual species, but this would be the size of the bee hummingbird, more or less. Compare that to the giant hummingbird. So well, those are like the extreme sides of sizes in hummingbirds. As I mentioned, in average they are 4 inches in length, and in average they are around 4 grams, which is the 1 ounce more or less in weight. And well, just to have it in mind, 4 paper clips would be 4 grams. So just imagine a tiny hummingbird weighing as much as 4 paper clips, pretty much. Um, well, one second, aquí está. So going back to Mexico, despite not being on the top three most diverse or hummingbird richness in the world, we still have like a high variety of endemic hummingbirds. Remember, endemic means a species that can only be found in a very specific and like restrained area. The native means that they are like their origin is from that place, and then from there they distribute it somewhere else. I always place myself as an example. I am native to Mexico, and I am endemic to Mexico City. So I am not found anywhere else but right now in Mexico City. The same with hummingbirds. Hummingbirds can be endemic to certain areas, like these ones in Mexico. So from these 65 hummingbirds that we have in Mexico, around 14 or 13 are endemic to the country. This is pretty much like the area where we find the endemism of hummingbirds in Mexico. And what I would like you to imagine is that all this area on the sides, on the two the coastlines of Mexico, we have high mountains. So we have the Sierra Madre Oriental and the Sierra Madre Occidental, which are basically the southern part of the Rocky Mountains and the southern part of bueno, like half of it of this I forgot the ones on the right side of the Americas. But well, we have high elevation in this area together with a mix of other ecosystems. For example, on this central part of the Gulf of Mexico, Veracruz, Tabasco area, we have very high mountains. We actually have the highest the volcano of Mexico in that area. But then immediately we go down to the Gulf Planis, to the Gulf, we call that the valley of the Gulf of Mexico, and we have estuaries, we have jungles, we have the different forests as we go up on the mountains. So we have a couple of endemic species of hummingbirds here. We have two different species and two different populations of the same species, one in the north side of Yucatan, another in here Veracruz, as I mentioned. All these other, on the other hand, all these mosaic of colors that you can see on the Pacific coast of Mexico, it's because of the same reasons. We have very high mountains, then we have very pronounced canyons on the central part. And as we go into the central part of Mexico, these are the highlands of Mexico, we have plains on this area coming to Central Park, Mexico City, the state of Mexico, and Michoacan area where we have the monarch butterfly sanctuaries with the mountains. So in all these areas where we find all the endemism in Mexico. Then, aquí está. Well, let's go back to the scientific facts about hummingbirds. They are very fast. That's something that we always like notice when thinking about the hummingbirds or seeing them flying around. They are very, very fast. They can flap their wings up to 200 times per second, specifically when they are in mating behavior or when they are in fighting behavior. Their heart rate can beat up to 1,200 beats per minute. That is crazy. That elevates their temperature a lot. But besides that, that consumes a lot of energy. They really need a lot of energy to sustain the speed of their wing beat. But besides being super fast, they are also very aggressive, both towards the same species, towards the same hummingbird species, or towards other birds and even other the species of animals. For example, there's a video, I think, on TikTok. I don't know. There's a reel my daughter showed me the other day. A hummingbird was coming in the house of a person that was feeding them, and the man was holding the little feeder. The hummingbird came in and then went towards the head and poked the man's eye. So he was like, okay, okay, I just leave the feeder somewhere there, and the hummingbird was like fighting the human away. I have seen this behavior. I'm pretty sure you have seen that behavior of chasing away other birds and other hummingbirds specifically from the flower field or from the feeder, the artificial feeders. So they are very, very territorial. But let's dive behind the science of why they are so fast. This diagram is so cool because it really tell us and show us how they adapted to move their wings so fast. Um, the the diagram or half of the diagram on the left, if you notice here, it's a series of bones of arms of these different species. You can see the human here. We have a starling on the central part and a hummingbird. What I would like you to notice is the purple area. So you can see the purple area here is pretty much like the hand of the bird and the hand of the human. and how elongated or how big the hand part is on the hummingbirds compared to that on the starling, for example. Then how short the upper arm, like from shoulder to elbow, how short it is to the hummingbird comparing on the hummingbird comparing to the starling. So this adaptation give us this wing structure. Let's say the area of the wing that beats or that pulls down the air, that is moving and helping on the flying and hovering, is called this hand wing. And on hummingbirds is 75% of the length of the whole wing, comparing to, for example, in the diagram with a pigeon that is almost like 50% more or less. So they have more hand bones on the wing rather than arm bones, and that gives them a very efficient flight, a very efficient hovering. Something that has always amazed scientists and researchers and, well, just like people interested in nature and hummingbirds, is that they can hover and they can move in every direction. Like they can move up and down, forward, backward, and they can also turn around, like go upside down and fly in that moment, pretty much. Um, like these modern is the drones, the mini drones that are doing all these acrobatic movements. So here I don't really can explain like all the physics behind this, but I have all the articles that I check to present for you. And this one specifically is very cool. We have the diagram here. They explain how when they are going when they are flipping their wings down, they have as twice as strength as when they are going up. Meanwhile, on other bird species, they are the same, like up and down are the same strength. They explain this very well in this article. And how, despite consuming almost the same their weight in food, they are very efficient, comparing, for example, to bats, that they are not as efficient and they need to feed on other stuff rather than only or mostly nectar from the flowers. So, well, as I mentioned, I have these sources for you. The diagrams that I show you on the previous slides come from this article, Studying Real Hummingbirds to Designing Hummingbird-like Robots, blah blah, literature review. So check them out. They're very very interesting. This one from the Stanford report, it's very cool because it's not so nerdy. It doesn't have so technical a language. So this is how they compare the hovering in bats and hummingbirds. So just give them a look. They explain that way better and in more detail than I did. So, well, why they are so furious, why they are so aggressive, and they fight over the feeders and the flower fields. Pretty much that is because, well, they need a lot of food. Wait, 1 second. Bueno, see. Because they need a lot of food and they need a lot of flowers to get that food. Usually they can visit around 1,000 flowers per day. Uh, some of them have evolved together to be specialists and feed mostly in one specific type of flower. But in general, they are, as I said, generalists. They can eat on any species of flower. This is just some examples that I wanted to show you that give us more like this visual adaptation on the beak and how they evolve together to feed on specific flowers. The swordbill hummingbird, this one on the left side of the slide, it has the longest beak of all hummingbirds. It's around, as I mentioned there, 4 inches long, and it is exclusively adapted to feed on a passiflora. It's passiflora is passion fruit species, passiflora mixta, and this passion fruit has a corolla, the area where they have to go in there to get the nectar from the flower. The corolla is 4.5 inches long. So the hummingbird evolved to get all the way in, and then with the tongue get to the nectar and take the nectar out of the flower. On the other hand, for example, this purple back thornbill has the smallest beak of all the hummingbirds, only zero point 0.2 inches, super tiny, half of a centimeter. And then there are some other hummingbirds adapted to eat specific curved flowers, like this. I don't have the names correctly. Well, curved bill hummingbird that is adapted to eat the heliconia flowers, the lobster claw flowers. And then I have a little beak that is upwards, that is adapted to get in a like a flat flower, and also get the insects that are inside the flower at the same time. So pretty much the beak is a straw, and the tongue can be as twice as long as the beak. And the tongue is adapted also to get the nectar. So it is not one single muscle as humans have on the tongue, but it actually has a split end. So this diagram is very cool because you can actually see how it's working. On the tip of the tongue, they have this papilla, this kind of like extra skin, extra is the muscle. And what happens is they open the tongue when it's on the nectar, the papilla goes out, and then it rolls in, catching more nectar than just like licking, and then comes back to the beak. So well, they just repeat that many times, getting as much nectar as they can get. So there you see the diagram. Aquí está. But they not only feed on nectar, because the amount of energy that nectar gives to the hummingbird is like 1/4 of what they require, 1/4, 1/3. So they have to also consume other protein sources, and they feed on small arthropods, flies, aphids, spiders, many other little arthropods. And this one here, for example, you will see in a moment, the tooth-bill hummingbird, it actually has adapted the bill to have on the very end this teeth-like structure on the both sides of the beak, on the mandible and the maxillar. And what this hummingbird does is, while licking the nectar from the flower, if it happens to be an insect inside, at the same time they bite it and they take it. So it's like a buffet. On the same moment, they take a little bit of everything that is inside that flower. So well, that's an adaptation they have to make in order to get enough food and enough calories and proteins for surviving. But what happens if they don't find enough food, or enough energy for the day, or during night that is colder, and then there are more predators for them to put on away? They go into this hibernation like state that is called torpor. And I'm pretty sure you have seen that here in Mexico. Is also very common to see at night mostly. So during the torpor state, the hummingbirds decrease their heart rate, their metabolism, their body temperature, and a lot of times they hang upside down, like in this photo, as you can see. So if it happens that you see a hummingbird like that, and you can notice it is chilly, or it is I don't know, a snowstorm on spring, like early spring, when on the northern part of the US, Canada, certain part of Canada, you still have some snow, but the hummingbirds are already there. You can see this type of behavior. You don't need to do anything. They found a place that is safe for them, and they will get better. They will wake up on the morning when they warm up with the sun and when they find more is the food uh, um, for them to get the energy. What I read, if you want to help the hummingbirds, like in this uh, cold late winter, early spring, that you already have them in at home, you can add a little bit more sugar to the artificial feeders. So always is the best to have flowers, but if you have an artificial feeder, you can add a little bit more sugar, um, in order to prevent the water from get is the frozen, and to give extra energy to the hummingbirds. But well, there are some specialized the sources that you can check, and they will tell you better information, of course, detailed information. Another thing, another adaptation that they have to avoid is the lack of food or the cold weather. It's the migration. A lot of hummingbird species migrate every year, especially to spend is the winter in southern areas, in central and southern areas of the Americas. The ones that we have in North America, from Canada and the US, they usually come to Central Mexico, Southern Mexico, and no more than Central America. Usually they stay in Central America, the farthest south. But well, there are some of them that can migrate to the like Colombia, for example, which is like the northern part of South America, but no more than that. It's too far away. They when they are traveling here on their migrations, they need to rest. They do stop. Usually they stay. They stop at night to sleep. They stop in gardens, in parks, in the feeders. I'm pretty sure you have seen them on the migration, and they usually fly alone. They are not like gregarious, like like geese or butterflies, that they come together and fly all together. They usually are solitary, and they travel on their own. Although they can come together in a resting area. These two examples I wanted to share on the left side of the slide, the rufous hummingbird and the ruby-throated hummingbird. They are two like extreme travelers. The rufous hummingbird that moves here on the Pacific area, they travel almost 4,000 miles from southern Canada to central Mexico, some of them. So almost 4,000 miles. Meanwhile, the ruby-throated hummingbird, they don't travel that far, maybe, but they do travel on the water through the Gulf of Mexico for 500 miles. So they do travel nonstop on the Gulf of Mexico for 500 miles. So these are like two extreme travelers on the hummingbird group. And as always, citizen science is very important. Your help is very important for science. If you want to be part of these the researchers of these citizen scientifics, helping tracking the hummingbirds when they are migrating, check the Hummingbird Central website or Journey North website as well. They both have these different ¿cómo se llama? Migration maps, interactive, and you can report your sightings. You can report how many hummingbirds you saw, where, when, if they what they were doing. So that really helps conservation projects, land management projects, because they can see where the hummingbirds are going and what areas are like vital for them and their migration routes. Okay, let's talk about reproduction. They are polygynous. That means that one male can mate with several females in a given mating season, but the females are the ones that take care of everything. They mate, and once they are mating, the male is gone, and the female starts looking for material to build their nest. When they finish, they lay the eggs, and they incubate. The females incubate the eggs, and then when the chicks are hatched, the females go and look for food, and they come back and feed the baby ones. They are very, very tiny. They I don't know if you have seen this hummingbird nest. Here is a perfect example of the size. They are very tiny, and usually, almost like 99% of the times, they only lay two eggs, and they have two chicks per the season. The eggs are the size of a peanut M&M, pretty much like an almond, more or less. And I could go deeper on this. It's very interesting how they build it, how they use different materials, different ¿cómo se llaman? Fabrics, like vegetals, fabrics. ¿Cómo se dice? Fibers, not fabrics, fibers, vegetal fibers, to build the nest, but also with spider web. So they basically make the shape of the nest, and then with the spider web, they give like a structure, the consistency, and then they, like in this photo here on the left of the slide, they stick lichens or branches, or little branches or leaves to camouflage the nest with the environment. Um, for more information on what to do, because you can help the hummingbirds to build their nest, something that I have seen here, my mother-in-law, when she brushes her dogs, all the hair that is coming out of the dog, she places it like in a little cage, in a little tiny bird cage, let's say, and then the hummingbirds can go and put, as they poke out a little bit of the hair from the dog, so they can build the nest. But for example, you need to use specific products for the hair on your dog, not like a lot of chemicals and pest control. ¿Cómo se dice? Sí, pesticide. Because well, they can be harmful for the hummingbirds as well. So well, go to americanbirdconservancy.org. It's abc.org, and you will see this hummingbird nest 101 beginner's guide, and they tell you like what to do, what type of vegetations you can have in your garden to help the hummingbird female to build their nest and to feel protected and choose your place to nest. 1 second, because this is okay. There you go. So well, another thing within the reproduction characteristics is the sexual dimorphism that the hummingbirds have. That's something that, of course, we already have that in mind. Colorful, bright hummingbirds, but those are mostly the males. So here on the left side of the screen, you can see a male from the garnet-throated hummingbird. This is pretty much like a stained glass coloration, as you can see. But then we have an adult female from the same species, and she looks like very conspicuous for obvious reasons. She needs to mimic with the environment when she is nesting, when she is the incubating the eggs for avoiding predators. So with sexual dimorphism comes another very nerdy and interesting area here, topic on the hummingbirds, the evolution of these colors, how they got these colors. Something very cool is that the coloration of hummingbirds is not a pigment, but it's a structural coloration. Many studies have been done, most of them in the last 2 decades, with the new technologies that we have, is the microphotography, the electron photography, I don't know, the little tiny microscopes that can see almost atoms and molecules. So they have been studying that, and this specific article is very cool because it explains, it's also in as an open access, so you can check that online. It explains how the birds have these all iridescent colorations, even if they are dark colorations. If we dissect this feather, the little tiny parts of the feather, we have on the barbel, on the each one of the parts. I don't want to say hair because they are not hairs, but each one of the parts of the strands of a feather is called a barbel. Each barbel has layers of melanosomes here on this little square, melanosomes within the keratin they are made of. So the melanosomes are the ones that give color to the birds, to the bird feathers. This is so cool. The dark coloration, as you can see on this diagram, is because the melanosomes are thick, or they are very they are colored. They are not hollow. They are like one rigid structure. You can see this example here. As we move towards the scale of colors, or the abundance, or este, colorful plumage on the birds, we see the different structure on the melanosomes, and how their shapes and hollowness is different. So just to make it more clear, one second. Ahí está. So to make it a little bit more clear, what we see is not a color, but the reflection of the light in this type of structures. So the melanosomes, according to their shape and if they are hollow or not, they allowed the light wavelength to come in. In this example, they showed the red wavelength and the green wavelength. So if the shape of the melanosome matches the shape of the wavelength color that they want, in this case red, they will go twice, they will reflect twice, and that enhances the color. I don't know if I make myself clear, but this is what is showing on this diagram. On the other hand, if the wavelength, the color doesn't match the melanosome characteristic, they cancel, the color cancels. See? So that's why I tell you, go to this to this article, Evolution of Brilliant Iridescent Feather Nanostructures, because it's physics, once again, it's optics, but basically that's why we have such brilliant and so diverse colors, because each nanostructure is different on each one of the species. Even within one species, sometimes they are different characteristics according to where they are distributed. Mm-hmm. And then for a little bit more poetic explanation, you can check this website, audubon.org news/jewels of the sky, and they show you a lot of these photos with more description, and pretty much is more like a photographic display on the feather of hummingbirds. Okay, so what's the ecological? Okay, they are beautiful. We know they are bright. They have these brilliant colors, colorful. But what's their importance? We know they are pollinators. They help have flowers pollinate, have plants with their fruits and everything. But what else? What's their role in nature? Well, they are also food for other organisms. I didn't want to show, I saw the photos, you can check them online. I didn't want to show them because they are kind of graphic, and they make me sad, honestly. But some spiders feed on adult hummingbirds, specifically on young hummingbirds that are smaller. Praying mantis feed on hummingbirds. You can see that photo there is a praying mantis on a feeder. So pretty much, if you see a mantis on your feeder, just shush it away, because it's very likely they're going to catch a hummingbird. Lizards also feed on them. Other birds, spiders, carnivore bats. So pretty much anything that eats other vertebrates that is a carnivore can feed, and bigger than a hummingbird can feed on a hummingbird. But well, as I mentioned on the previous slides, that they are feeding also on small arthropods. They also feed, for example, on small the spiders. So they are controlling arthropod or insect and arachnid populations. So they have a role, a very important role in ecology, as any other animal and plant. What's their cultural significance? We know, I mean, I have my earrings here. I don't know if you already noticed. They are hummingbirds, like a alebrije hummingbird. So you can see jewels made out of the hummingbirds that are jewels. You can see the paintings. Rufino here. I mean, a lot of stuffed animals made out of the hummingbirds. A lot of publications of magazines and the books. So they are very charismatic. These two examples for kids, for example, I strongly recommend you to watch this episode, To Touch a Hummingbird from the Wild Frats. It's super cool, and it explains a lot of stuff that I'm explaining here, but for the young ones on the family. Here on this movie is one of our favorite movies here at home. We will see the hummingbirds like they are fighting, like if they are part of the army on these beings. So in Mesoamerican cultures, for pre-Hispanic cultures here on the Americas, they are associated also to the gods, to deities. They are associated to the ethereal world. I think for obvious reasons. They fly very fast. They go into this torpor state that sometimes was explained as a death and rebirth every day, like in the cosmogony of Mexicas, of the Aztecs, like the sun. Every night the sun died and had to go to the infra world and fight for its life again until it comes back on the morning. And the same with the hummingbirds. They had to go in the torpor during nights, and then during the days, during the morning, they wake up or they come back to life every day. So all these relation that they had on these Mesoamerican or on pre-Hispanic, pre-Columbian cultures, well, it has come to our days still. In Mexico nowadays, together with the butterflies, hummingbirds are associated to the spirits of loved ones that passed away. So most of the times, when someone died and the family is like grieving, if they see a hummingbird, they get a little bit of peace of mind, a peace of heart, because in our most of our beliefs in Mexico, as in the Mexican culture, it means that your loved one came to visit you and is just telling you that everything is okay. So this is something that we still cherish to today. Um, and something very cool that I found out doing this webinar, I did know about this, the feather art of Mesoamerica, of the New Spain. This is during the conquest. Um, I knew that they use feathers to have art, to have different art pieces. But what I didn't know is that they had specifically hummingbird feathers. And here I want to show you very quickly. I want to show you very quickly part of a video where you can see the colors of hummingbird feathers. I don't know if you can see the blue, the purple, the turquoise coloration. Those are feathers that they took from hummingbirds. So this is a short video from a museum in Mexico. It's called El Arte Plumario. So if you Google feather art, Mexico feather art, or New Spain feather art, it will take you to the research, will take you to all of this information. And bueno, if you have the chance to come to Mexico, or if you can order it online, I strongly recommend you this magazine from Arqueología Mexicana. This publication is from January. It's a special edition. I think it was from January this year. But well, here is where you can see all of that information about the feather art and the importance of hummingbirds during the pre-Hispanic and the New Spain times on Mexico, together with a little bit of the scientific explanation behind the colors and stuff. So to wrap up, because we pretty much were on the hour, I would like to share that you always can have hummingbirds in your area. The important thing, of course, you can have a feeder, pretty much like this. This would be like the perfect feeder for hummingbirds, clear, no color in the nectar, in a higher place, clear from from bushes and from areas where predators can come. Um, but I think the most important is to have a pollinator garden. So with that, you are helping not only the hummingbirds, they will come if you have a variety of flowers. They usually prefer flowers on the red purple spectrum of colors, so pink, purple, red, orangey, more or less. Not so much on the blue side of the colors, because well, they are adapted to see more like these kind of colors, and they know they have a little bit more nectar, so they know what they prefer. So well, you are helping also other species such as the monarch butterfly, native bees, native bumblebees. So is the pollinator gardens are like the top of what you can have if you are able to. And I don't give you any source because we have many of those in Journey North, in Monarch Watch, even in NatHab website. If you go in each one of the trips, there's another little section on the left side of the website on NatHab that tell us like it's the resources or traveler info, traveler resources, and there it takes you to different webinars and websites that helps you help the nature and the conservation in your area. So pretty much that's it. Thanks for showing up, and go back to you, Brooke.
Wow, Melissa, again, I swear, I don't know how you put so much information into your webinars. You have an entire lecture for each of them. They're amazing. I learned so much. Even as a biologist, I learned a lot in that. All right, everybody. So we have about 8 or 9 minutes of Q&A that we can have with Melissa here. So if you have any questions about hummingbirds or monarch butterflies or anything, Melissa is the person to ask. So we have quite a quiet audience here, but we do have one question so far. That publication of that feather art that you showed earlier, could you what museum was that from, or where was that video from? If somebody wants to look into that a little further.
Is Museo Casa de los Muñecos, right here. This one. Museo
Perfect.
Casa de los Muñecos. Uh-huh. And the name of the video is El Arte Plumario del Museo Universitario. It's all in Spanish. Maybe it has like the automatic translation, but I mean, just to see like all the explanation they have about it. And then from there, of course, there are some other the links to different sources is where you can find it.
Perfect. Thank you. All right, now we're getting some questions. Good. All right, next. Do hummingbirds get into conflict with any other bird species like chickadees or any other small bird?
They are more in conflict with birds that feed on nectar. If I remember correctly, the chickadee is more like a seeder, like they eat more seeds. I don't really remember, but if there's another species that is feeding on the nectar, or that can be like a direct competition for insects, for example, for the flies, for the little mosquitoes they are eating. They will fight them out, they will scare them away. Sometimes, even if it's not a direct competition, a direct competition, where is it? Here. For example, if there is a bird that is bigger than their cheeks or bigger than its own body, they might try to poke them or to poop them to scare them away, because they see it as a danger, as a threat. So they don't want those kind of birds nearby. So pretty much that would be the competition, or the direct interaction. I don't know if there's another question, like direct competition in feeding insects, wasps, bees. Those are like the direct competition on the feeders, ants also. So that would be like the answer.
Great. No, that was good. Okay, awesome. We're getting a lot of questions about nectar. Could you explain why somebody should put out clear nectar, as a lot of commercial nectar has color in it, like, a lot of it's red or something like that? Could you explain a little further why we should go for clear?
Yeah, what I read, the information, all the information I got specifically for the feeders, mentioned that the red color that is added to the commercial nectar is toxic to hummingbirds, that it interacts with, I don't know, they explain it, with nutrient absorption, and they also cause, is it constipation? They couldn't poop. So
Wow.
that's the problem with the color, with the red coloration of the nectar. Um, bueno, okay, bueno, if you want to forward some of the questions of that, and if someone has like wants like to know specifically what type of nectar, I just remember I found a couple of trustable sources that they sell nectar that was made for the hummingbirds, like with specific nutritional characteristic for the hummingbirds, but I couldn't put it on the slides. Um, so yeah, it's pretty much just like white sugar, no raw sugar, no molasses, no honey, just white sugar, water, usually proportion 1 cup of sugar, 2 cups of water, and that would be the perfect nectar for the hummingbirds.
Great, thank you. Next, someone is asking how often we should change our hummingbird nectars.
Every other day, more or less. So every other day, or every, maybe twice a week if you are in a colder environment. So it depends a lot on if it's on direct sunlight during most of the day. If you are in a temperate or warm environment, if it's like here in Mexico City, for example, I will change it every day. Every day in Mexico City. If I go to Puerto Vallarta with my mom, maybe almost every day, but like with very little nectar to avoid any contamination or to rotten the nectar. If you live, for example, in southern Canada, northern US, every other day. So it depends a lot on where you live, but you really need to clean it very well with soap, with the one you use for your dishes, pretty much, and rinse it very well as well.
Great, thank you. Okay, next, are there any extinct species of hummingbirds?
Yes, very good question. Yeah, I was reading that the group of hummingbirds, they actually evolved like 50 million years ago in Europe, believe it or not. From there, they start to like moving around the world, and eventually around 25 million years ago, they evolve as the Trochilidae group as we know nowadays. So there are some fossil hummingbird fossils in Europe, in the Americas, and they more or less evolved 25 million years ago. We do have, and they are the same size. They kind of like this, like the 4 inches, 5 inches length.
Great. Thanks for another awesome answer. Okay, this is a really good question. Do hummingbirds reuse a nest every year? Do they come back to the same place or do they build a new one each year?
Yeah, they build a new one each year. They don't reuse it. What looks like reusing is actually taking some parts or some materials, like a branch or the lichen from another nest, and they build a new nest, but they don't reuse or rebuild an old nest. So, for example, if you have nests in your area, in your garden, and you see the mama and the chicks already flew away, it's winter time, I don't know, you can clean the area, you can take the nest and leave it somewhere there nearby. So the next year, whoever comes to make the new nest, the same female or another, can take good pieces out of that nest and build the new one.
Great. Okay, next, can you explain the relationship between hummingbirds and orchids?
Ooh, hummingbirds and orchids. That's a good one. There are some hummingbirds that have adapted their beaks to go into specific orchids, but the orchids rely more than anything on the native bees to be pollinated more than hummingbirds. So they do go to the orchids. I don't know if you remember the shape of the orchid. It has like a curve to go down. So pretty much, there's actually one hummingbird that I show you here, the one that has the beak upward. They go in the orchid, but they catch the insects, but they also go in the orchid. So they need to have this kind of like weird beak upwards in order to get the nectar from the orchid. So that's why bees and other insects are the ones that are more closely attached to get nectar from orchids rather than hummingbirds.
Wonderful. I always love questions about conservation statuses. Are there any endangered species of hummingbirds? And if so, what is pressuring them?
Yeah, see, from the 300 plus species, maybe a quarter is endangered. A lot of the ones in Mexico, unfortunately, are endangered. Let me show you the map. Um, Here, for example, these ones with the A, it's amenazada. This one is in danger. With the P is in risk of extinction. And that is just like with any other species, the habitat loss for any reason, pollution, and direct hunting or poaching, illegal hunting. So, for example, one of the species that is in risk of extinction in Mexico is a little one that is found here. Is the crested coquette in Spanish is the coqueta de Atoyac, and it's called the Atoyac because it's this one. It's only found in a municipality of Guerrero named Atoyac. You don't find it
Mhm.
outside of that area. So unfortunately, deforestation, as I mentioned, pollution is threatening like all the species of hummingbirds, but like a quarter of them, it's in higher risk or higher danger because of this anthropogenic problems, basically.
Right. Well, we have reached the top of the hour, Melissa, so I will go ahead and turn it to you for any last closing comments.
Well, thank you very much. I hope you enjoyed this as much as I did, putting this all together for you. Um, I always like to say that keep in touch with nature, get to know nature. Once you get to know what you are seeing, what you are like surrounded by, you get to know it, you understand it, and then you understand the importance and you commit to the protection, to the conservation of this part. So don't stick with what I said. Go and do your research. I gave you a lot of resources, and try to help the hummingbirds in your area. Thank you for being
That
here today. Thank you, Brooke.
Yes, Melissa, that is a great ending message. And thank you so much for presenting for us today. Of course, the hummingbirds there too. And I would like to thank everybody who tuned in. Join us tomorrow for our next daily dose of nature. You can check out this week's lineup, including registration links on our website at nathat.com/webinars. We did record today's presentation and we will have the replay available on our website soon. With that, I will conclude the webinar. Goodbye, everybody.